Intelligent Ramblings with your host, Bill Lofton. Co-hosted by Gary Glenn and William Howington with help from John Coleman.
Well, howdy there. This is Intelligent Ramblings. I'm Bill Lofton. I'm your host with my co-host Gary Glenn and John Cone.
Hey, good evening.
William is away on assignment, and hopefully he'll be here next week. Or maybe he'll show up tonight. Who knows? Anyway, isn't this Georgia pollen enjoyable? It paints everything a pretty yellow.
I, for one, am not enjoying it.
No.
I've had a headache for 3 days. That's what happens to me is I get a headache.
All right. Well, I went to, I was on location last week coming to you from the beach. As soon as we got home, my car that I had left at home with that shade of yellow you're talking about. And then I started coughing and sneezing again. I'm not allergic to any one thing, but I'm allergic to the volume of stuff in the air. Once it gets to a certain level, it bothers me. But what are you going to do? I mean, I wash the cars.
I remember one year in particular that I-285, the circle around Atlanta, whoever doesn't know, the perimeter, they call it, was solid yellow. I mean, it had like an eighth of an inch of pollen on the entire thing. They took a picture of it. You could see this big yellow ring around the city of Atlanta, and it was pollen. It's horrible stuff. But that's
a big
that's
yellow
part
ring around the city of Atlanta. Somehow appropriate.
That is extremely appropriate. But that's what you get for living in Eden, where we live. We're real close to the Garden of Eden, because around here it's going to be beautiful in about 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, and all this stuff will go away.
The azaleas are already blooming on my street, and they're just gorgeous.
I've got.
Bill, you remember that as you turned off to go back to McKelville Road, that quick as you made that turn, you used to live here in this neighborhood. That whole big bank of azaleas right there, those bushes.
Yeah.
They're just blooming to beat the band. Now this rain is really making it perk up.
If you want to see azaleas, the place to go is Mobile, Alabama. It is like the azalea capital of the South. It is unbelievable in the spring. It is worth a trip to go down there just to see the flowers. Well, on the business. It seems that the Arizona court upheld a Civil War era abortion law. The big words here are Civil War era. 1864 was when this law was enacted, and they just said, that's what we need. And it's a total ban. Only exception is for the life of the woman.
Yeah, I think the Republicans are trying to get out of the fallout from that as fast as they can, but I think they've got so much baggage around this issue they're not going to be able to shake it.
Well, it's going to be a hot button issue, that's for sure. It punches a lot of different emotions, and there are people that are very sincerely held beliefs on both sides. And I can't believe that we can't have some kind of coming together. Of course, guys, 100 years from now, we wouldn't have this discussion, because if you didn't want to bear a child, if you became pregnant, they just remove it and grow it somewhere else. That'll be coming. I don't think that's science fiction.
Well, it seems that politics has overtaken President Trump's moral values, make sure I got moral in quotes, and the fact that he has completely and absolutely reversed himself and said that he is in favor of the states.
Well,
quick video.
You go ahead.
Quick video, and then we'll talk about it.
I have been pro-life.
I know.
What's the law? Nobody knows what the law is going to be. It depends on who gets elected. But you have to ban it. There has to be some form of punishment. There has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman.
Yep, he said it. There's no denying it.
Well, that's funny because when he was on television and palling around with the Hollywood crowd, he was kind of in favor of abortion, if I remember that. Now all of a sudden he's really ultra conservative on that issue and wanting to punish the woman. Wow.
Well, I
I
think that
having an abortion is pretty punishable.
Yeah, I think it's a mess, and they have stepped in it. It's going to be sticking to them all the way through the rest of this campaign.
Oh, that may turn some, that may turn some people, flip some states. Because if you look at just about every state that's ever had a public referendum, nobody wants abortion to be completely illegal. There are people that have grave concerns about when and how it should be. And almost everybody agrees that once the fetus achieves viability, then it should be illegal, because you might as well then just have the baby born and shoot it in the head. Seriously. If you're going to go that far. But almost everybody wants to have some form of abortion. And when it came out, it was supposed to be legal, safe, and rare. And now everybody seems to want to use it for birth control, and I don't think that's right at all. Looks like Jay Johnson says that your clip was very heavily edited, Billy. What did he really say?
Joe, I think if you go back and watch the whole clip, that clip was from the campaign leading up to the 2020 election. And I recall watching that and hearing him say exactly what he said. He said it multiple times over the course of about 5 minutes. Anyway.
Well, you probably need to go back and read the transcript.
Yeah.
Of what that went. And I'm not a fan of taking little minor, because you can take little minor clips and edit it and this and that. You can make people say just about anything you want to say. So to get it in context, I think you have to hold the whole thing on. Oh, well, I think you agree with me. Thanks, Jay. All right.
We actually probably agree more than we realize. But everything is so polarized that it's hard to tell sometimes.
Yes, it is. That's a shame.
Well, I've got a topic to talk about. I don't know if you can hear, Bill, but I was curious to see what people thought about the inflation numbers that came out this morning. The consumer price index came in at about 3.5% rate of inflation. which is about what it's been for the last three reports. It knocked the socks off the stock market, that's for sure, which looks to me like a buying opportunity, but that's just me.
Well, that rate of inflation was a little bit more than they had anticipated, wasn't it, John?
It was. They were
a little bit more.
They were thinking what they were hoping for was something down around in the twos, something below 3% in the twos. If they could say 2 point something on the news, sometime they just could not have been happier, but it was just a total miss. I think what's happening is that the mechanism that the Fed has to drive inflation lower is not working on the things in the economy that are actually causing the rate of inflation to go up. So that report is broken up into like 24 components that make up that 3.5 rate of inflation. And I went through it today and picked out the top 5 things. Number one was auto insurance, came in at a 22% rate. Transportation services, that's Uber, Lyft, taxi cabs, came in at 10.7%. Shelter, which is home prices and rent, came in at 5.7%. Electrical power, 5%. And food away from home, basically restaurant food, at 4.2%. Those were the 5 highest components of the CPI.
Well, I can tell you from personal experience watching my auto insurance rates climb.
Yes,
I can vouch for that one.
I'm right there with you. And Georgia Power gave us a whack, like January, the month of January.
Guess I need to turn that back on for y'all to hear me. Sorry.
And here's the thing: what the Fed does with the Fed funds rate doesn't really affect those things. They don't have an effect on auto insurance rates. They don't have an effect on transportation services like the rates that Uber or Lyft charge. They don't have an effect on utility rates like power or natural gas. And so anyway, I think they're struggling with what to do with these factors, these parts of the economy. They don't really have a lot of control over.
Well, I saw something interesting today about the utility rates. You know, because of court decisions which to challenge the way the Public Service Commission in Georgia was elected, they haven't been able to have an election for Public Service Commission in a while, and they still won't be able to have it for a while. And right now, when you mentioned Georgia Power giving you a whack, well, they're going to give you some more because they keep allowing them to raise the rates to pay for those nuclear power plants, which are billions overrun in cost. Now, maybe eventually they might pay for themselves, but I mean, come on. I mean, the people that should be held accountable for letting them do this, you can't hold them accountable because you can't vote. Something really wrong about that.
That is wrong.
And that's gonna filter down to all the rest of it, even if you don't have Georgia Power as your main source of power. You know, some people have other power companies, some people have Jackson AMC like we do. But it's going to affect everybody sooner or later.
It's going to affect everybody's rates. You're right, Gary. Well, here's the thing I wish President Biden would do. I don't know if you guys have heard the term jawboning or not. Anyway, presidents used to do this a lot. And this is where he could step in and say, all right, auto insurance companies, you're gouging consumers with high rates. Knock it off and name some company names, and that would slow things down a little bit. It might not be fair. They might complain about being called out in public over their rates, but it would slow things down. And it's something that he can do that the Fed can't really do. They can't go out and talk about insurance companies or auto transportation services. They have to stick to their knitting. But the president can go out and get ahead of it and say something about it.
Well, and here is what is happening. There becomes, between the top auto insurers, I'm not talking about the little local things, but the top auto insurers, you have a de facto collusion.
Agreed.
Because they kind of all look at each other's rates and decide nobody wants to get into some kind of a war with that. They all want to keep it about the same, so that keeps inching up and inching up and inching up. So I wish somebody would have the guts to call a halt to that, be it the president or somebody else. I don't know what you're going to do about it, but because you got to have auto insurance. Just for simple fact of liability, if nothing else. I had been thinking about something, John. You're the economics guy that we have on this show, so I want to ask you something now. I keep reading about the fact that we're glad we kind of came along. We're a bunch of old farts. We came along when you actually could afford to get a loan and buy your own house, and that seems to be harder and harder for younger folks just starting out to do that. So most people are starting to slant toward renting rather than buying. Why do people keep building all these subdivisions? Are all of those rental houses? Because somebody's buying those houses. Otherwise, they wouldn't keep building them, right?
I think there are plenty of homes being built now that were never intended to be sold to somebody. They were either held by the investors who built the subdivision and rented out, or sold to somebody who's never going to live there. They're just going to rent it out. It's an investment. And I think home prices in general are stuck in this weird Bermuda Triangle where interest rates are high, but home prices are high because the supply is so low. And that part of the housing economy is just really stuck right now. And it's not equitable, okay? It's not fair. And that is something they ought to fix. If we can get around the corner of the next election, hopefully they will do something about it.
I'm just interested because I see construction all the time, and I also see a lot of big empty warehouses that people have bought or constructed apparently on spec, and there's nobody in those warehouses.
Yeah.
So I don't.
Yeah,
know
there's
a boom that they thought was happening that's not happening.
There's a commercial real estate meltdown waiting to happen, and you can see it all around the city of Atlanta, just like you're talking about. Everything from warehouses to office towers to shopping centers. They're standing 70% empty, and those notes are coming due, and it's going to cause a lot of negative stuff to happen in the commercial real estate business.
All right. Bill, are you back with us? Can you hear us?
I've heard you everything you said. I've been here the whole time.
Okay.
I just know what the hell you're talking about, so I can't really comment. Seems that the mother and father of the school shooter was sentenced up to 15 years in prison, both of them. Seems to me if you're going to, your kid's going to shoot up a school, then you're going to pay for it. And they came out tonight that a school administrator that ignored the warning signs of another school is also being charged with 8 counts of whatever counts it's going to be.
Well, you mean parents ought to have some say so and responsibility in raising their children? Oh, what a quaint notion!
Seems as though.
Come on.
Oh my gosh.
My father, the old Marine, y'all met my dad back in the day. He would have worn my ass out. And I would have deserved it if I had done a tenth of what some of the stuff that's happening today has happened. I think you may quote me on this. If you could spank a little more ASS, you might have a whole lot less ADD.
I don't know about that. I don't think capital punishment of kids works. I really don't. It didn't work on me. I just learned how to take it.
That's because you were a stubborn son of a bitch.
Yeah.
I caught a clue. I said, you know what? I didn't want to do that anymore. Jay, I think I saw some of the statement that the mother read. She did not seem particularly remorseful.
She hasn't through the course of the whole trial.
Well,
that's my reading.
I would agree with Joel in the fact that it's sickening the way the parents behaved. They did nothing except buy him a gun. And they brought him to the school and said, this guy, your kid is deeply disturbed. And they went, that's your problem, and left. You
see, that's the problem on a scale not necessarily about people bringing guns to school, but it's the attitude of a lot of parents. We're just going to drop our kids off at school and you take care of them. You can raise them, you can discipline them, you can educate them, you can pat them on the head or spank them on the. No, they ain't spanking them on the butt anymore. But you pat them on the head, give them a hug, and we have taken the parental input out of the equation, and the reason that people don't do better than what they do is because they have no responsibility.
There's no repercussions.
I called. Here, let me tell you. I'll tell you this quick story about education, then I'll shut up. When I was Professor Glenn at Brenau, I had a girl, a young woman, and she was not doing her work. And she wasn't stupid, she was just lazy. So I called the dad, and he said, all right. Within a couple of days, I had 0 problems out of that young woman for the rest of the semester, because I could hear the other side of that conversation. I'm not paying all these thousands and thousands of dollars a year for you to get down there and mess around. So unless you want to start saying you want fries with that, you better buckle down. And she did. Now, when I became Coach Glenn in a public high school, I had a kid, and he was plenty bright, but he was lazy too. Wouldn't do anything. He's pretty good with computers, but that was about it. So I called the mom. Didn't talk to the dad. Talked to the mom. Don't know if dad was around. But I talked to the mom, and at the end of that conversation, she said, well, good luck. I can't do anything with him either. Two totally different points of view. And I'm not saying it because one was male, one was female. One took parental responsibility, and the other said, I don't have the wherewithal to enforce what I need to do. Come on. We're in a hell of a mess if we can't get our kids straight and have the parents take some responsibility for it.
I left this text up on or this chat up on purpose. I agree with Gary again. That was worth
consequence. Somebody's got to have consequences, otherwise things are still going to keep happening.
When I had a smart mouth attitude, the school called Dad. Yeah, and I went down there quickly. and wasn't very pleasant.
Well, see, and you probably took their word for it, did you? Huh?
No,
You didn't
actually,
you didn't go down.
Actually, I recall one instant where my daughter got into a fight because she was standing in line for whatever reason, and some kid just comes up and pushes her, shoves her, and they were going to suspend the girl that pushed her and Allie. And I was like, no, wait a minute. She gets pushed, and she's going to get suspended because she got pushed and reacted to that. The assistant principal. This was down at West Hall, and one of the assistant principals had I can't remember exactly who it was, but it was two guys down there at West Hall, and one of them had to restrain me from going after the guy that said, "Yeah, I'm going to suspend her." And I started walking towards him. I'm glad the guy grabbed me and said, "Hey, Bill, we don't want to go there." And both of them play ball for my dad, so I kind of had an inside line. But it's the rules are all whacked out, and it all started 10, 15 years ago when they started giving ribbons to people that lost in the games. That these kids, they have field day. You remember field day?
Oh yeah.
We all had and they give ribbons to the kids that they participant ribbon. You didn't
We've gone from trying to make kids responsible citizens who are intelligent and can make good decisions for the benefit not only of themselves and their family, but for society at large. We've gone from that to coddling people and telling ne'er-do-wells and people that make mistakes over and over because y'all are just fine because we don't want to damage their self-esteem. Do you think Jim Lofton gave a damn about my self-esteem if I was screwing up?
No.
Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Don't do it that way, Gary. Well, that's wrong. Do it this way. Okay. Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Jack Keene. Thanks to Jack Keene, I never took a college math course because I went all the way through calculus. Now, I wouldn't know a logarithm today if it came up and bit me on the butt. But through high school, he didn't. If I flunked the test, I flunked the test. I needed to do better to learn the stuff. Now, it's okay. Yeah. It's all right. Everybody's good. No, we're not. Everything is not okay. Everything's not good. Just because you say it is. Now, that's what's gotten us in the mess we're in and some of this other stuff. People believing all these outrageous lies because they want to believe them. Truth stands independent of belief. Doesn't matter what you believe. If it's not the truth, then it's not true.
Well, you've got to learn. You've got to learn how to lose, and you got to learn how to win. Absolutely. It's hard to be a good winner. It's hard to be a good loser. That's what you learn. And by saying, okay, you get a ribbon because you participated, you didn't win, but you got the same ribbon that the kid that won got. To me, that's just wrong. And they started doing that shit about 15 years ago, and it changed everything to where...
Well, I'm a terrible loser. I don't want to lose. If we're playing for funsies, that's fine. But when we start keeping score, I want to kick your ass. So I'm a terrible loser, but I will lose. I will lose with grace and dignity. And sometimes it helps you to lose some. It takes you down somewhere you need to be.
Oh, believe me, I know. I've had some colossal losses, and it taught me how to. I had colossal losses in my younger life. In high school, I lost the state championship twice, and I didn't react real well on the first one because the referee raised my hand instead of the other guy's hand, and then he raised the other guy's hand. I didn't react well to that. I threw my headgear up in the damn stands. And I remember walking out of Rockdale County after the Rockdale County tournament. I got 4th. And I turned around and I threw my medal. I looked at my medal as I was walking out of the gym at Rockdale County at this tournament, and I threw my medal across the gym. Said, I don't want that. You're the one that went and got my medal and found it. I remember that. You did that. You said you're probably going to want this sooner or later, but now that you're calmed down. But
Yeah.
I didn't handle it well. But when I had losses in real life, I handled them better because I knew how not to act like an idiot.
John, wasn't it Michael Jordan that said the reason I succeed is because I failed so many times?
Probably.
I think
he's an intelligent
was.
person, I'm sure.
Michael Jordan shot a lot of shots that he missed. A lot. Amazing amount. If you look at the statistics, he shot a lot.
Whose hand did you want the ball in when the game was on the line?
Michael Jordan.
Absolutely. And Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player in the history of the NHL, somebody said, you take a lot of shots. He looked at him and he said, I miss 100% of the shots I don't take.
Very true.
Okay. Well, you learn from losing and you learn from winning. And we've all been athletes, and I've said many times before, I said, look, if all you learn from athletics is how to play some stupid game, go play yourself another game, because some of this stuff is hard. I said,
one last thing.
Stuff from athletics.
One last thing on Dear Donald, the judge rejects Trump's hush money trial delay yesterday. Today, the appellate court rejected his asking for the delay. So we will get our first trial Monday, and we'll be talking about it next week, I'm sure. We'll get to see that coming up next week. I mean, how long can he make these things? He's already got all these other trials pushed back till it'll be after the election, and he can pardon himself. What the hell's that?
Probably me.
Oh, sound like an alarm going off. But that's what we got. That's what we got to look forward to next week. One last thing I want to talk about: the Feds stop a terror attack on churches, several churches, by an 18-year-old subject that's been turned to the dark side.
Yeah, I saw that.
They're getting younger and younger.
Man, that's just evil. I don't know. That's evil. That's Satan, for lack of a better term.
Absolutely agree.
I'm not talking about the church lady kind of Satan. I'm talking about the big bad. These people are they're listening to the wrong side, like you said, Bill. They're in the dark side of the force. I don't know what else could save them, other than the fact it's got to be an intervention of some sort. These people, I'm afraid they're going to find out when they get to hell. It's still not going to be a lot of fun.
No doubt about that. Well, it's time to shift to a different aspect of the show about right now.
All right, we've been talking about some pretty heavy stuff. So I'm going to talk a little bit about joy right now, things that make folks happy. Now, on the side of athletics, we touched on athletics a little bit too. On Sunday, when South Carolina, undefeated South Carolina, by the way, from the SEC, coached by the great Dawn Staley, went undefeated for the whole NCAA Division I basketball season, won the national championship. They beat Iowa with the great Caitlin Clark playing for Iowa. It was the most watched basketball game in college basketball, men or women, in years and years. And of course, the men played on Monday night, and you saw what happened with there with when Purdue and their big center lost to UConn, who is now the basketball power in the country when you consider how much their men's and women's programs have won over the last several years. And my point being that the fans of those people that won had a lot of joy. They were excited and they were happy. Now, sometimes happiness is circumstantial, and obviously that's one of those times. But then again, on Monday, we saw something that affected a great swath of the country and a lot of people around the world. When the eclipse happened, people drove to see that eclipse. They went in planes to see it. And some of them were moved to tears because they said it was so pretty. And I understood one of the commentators to say something like this, and it occurred to me that building on what they said and what I saw, and for a little bit there, everybody in the country, we weren't cheering for a basketball team. They weren't cheering for one side or the other. They were just happy to be part of the joy of that experience. United under an eclipsed sun, all under the sun, everybody for a little bit was kind of the same. From the far left to the MAGA Trumpians, everybody could participate and claim a little joy in that. You know, Jesus told the story of the Good Samaritan helping out a Jewish fellow that got beaten and robbed. And people of that era would have understood how outrageous a notion that was, because the Samaritans and the Jews despised one another. And for a Samaritan not only to help this Jewish fellow, but to take care of him, bandage him up, take him somewhere so that he could be cared for, and pay for him to be cared for, and then promise to pay more when he came back if they needed it, that was outrageous. It would be like a far left or a MAGA Trumpian somehow getting on the same page and trying to take care of one another. You know, when they all came together and when we all came together to watch that eclipse under the sun, somebody said, and I'm thinking that, and maybe it was me, that in all of these divisive times, to bring everybody together, it might take an act of God. Well, on Monday, maybe we saw one. That's my time out. Thanks for yours. I'm Gary Glenn.
This webcast is brought to you by William Lofton Photography. They can be found at williamlofton.com. Offering event residential portraiture at williamlofton.com.
Okay, part 2 of a 3-part series about inequality. And the inequality we're talking about is wealth and income inequality. And it's a real thing. It has a huge impact on our economy and on our lives. The basis for my comments are in a book that was written by a professor named Thomas Piketty in 2014. The title of his book is Capital in the 21st Century. If you get a chance to read it, I really, really recommend it. His whole notion, his whole thought, his whole thesis for the book was a really simple formula where R is greater than G. And R is capital or wealth, and G is G is income, like GDP or your personal income. His point is that if capital is growing faster than the rate of growth in people's income, then capital tends to concentrate among a wealthy few. And so what happens is you get a group of people whose money works for them, which is fine, or you're part of the other side of the equation and you work for money, which is the state that a lot of us are in or have been in. And what happens over time, Thomas Piketty tells us, is that capital becomes more and more concentrated in the hands of a wealthy few people. And that concentration of wealth creates a concentration of opportunity. And it's not like there's plenty for everybody. There's not. The economy and capital can only grow at a certain rate. And so if more and more wealth is being concentrated in the hands of fewer people relative to the rest of us, then it's wealth that we don't have, that we'll never get. And the opportunity that comes along with that kind of wealth is also lost to the rest of us. So that is what creates the inequity, the unfairness that exists in our economy today around concentration of wealth, people being unable to buy homes, to buy their first home because the prices are so high. They don't have enough capital built up to put 20, 40, 50% down on a home. They have to scrape together what they can using incomes that have been diluted over time by inflation, and trying to buy homes at prices that are relatively much higher than we had to pay back in the day. So those are some of the negative sides of what happens in that concentration of wealth and concentration of opportunity. So what can we do to fix this? Well, that's the thesis. That's the third part of my series that's coming next week. And I can tell you in advance that the way you fix it is through taxation, social policy, and paying attention to things and giving access to people to capital markets, to banking, to the simple things that we often can't get to that are so accessible to the people that have the money. So thank you and see you next week.
Well, here we are at 3 minutes to talk with Bill Lofton, and our special guest is Juan Martin, a serious gamer. And, you know, Juan, I appreciate you being here, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
You know, I watch all the memes and I see on Facebook all that exciting stuff, people doing their little controllers and noise stuff and whatnot. And I see all the colorful cartoons and everything about gaming. What is it that I need to do if I want to be a gamer? If I want to invest, what do I have to do to become a gamer?
I mean, honestly, just like anything else, the main thing is if you want to get into something, get into it. You know, whatever it is, if you want to buy a console or if you want to go PC, highly recommend going PC. which can get expensive, but prices have come down now that COVID's over, and processors are more readily available at an actual affordable price. But it's just getting started. Just like anything else, if you want to drive a car, you need a car, and then start driving, and then you start to figure out what you like to do. If you like MMORPGs, that's great. You want to play World of Warcraft like back in, it's still popular for a reason. There's people that love that, and there's people that they've never played any other game in their life. And you got first-person shooters. If you want to go Call of Duty, if you want to, play Fortnite, whatever it is you want to do, just get started and start to figure out what you like. The main thing is, and the reason I enjoy gaming, and everybody I know that enjoys gaming, is just it's a great distraction. It's the same reason that we started making sports so popular. There's enough things in the world that if you focus on them too long, you're gonna lose your mind. So you need something to distract you and just tune out and have some fun. You can work really hard at your job and get a raise every 6 months if you work really hard, and you'll feel accomplished. But every other night, I can play Baldur's Gate 3 and slay a dragon, and I'm gonna feel pretty good about that too.
Well, I have to admit I do game some. I got on a game, a first-person shooter, and I was lucky if I killed 2 people in a match. What's the deal? I mean, I'm pretty quick for my age. I'm old, but I'm not. What can I do to improve myself?
And honestly, one of the things that I've learned that's the best for improving is playing several different game modes in different games. It's like, you have NFL players that do ballet, and that's to increase their balance and their core and everything. It's something that it doesn't seem like it makes a lick of sense, but I played a survival game for a while, and I came back to Call of Duty, and I was a lot better. It made no sense. There's very little shooting in the survival game, but just learning to adapt in other ways gave me new abilities in the other game I was already playing. So it's one of those things that just expanding your skill set can definitely help you improve in one particular game.
Well, how important is the equipment?
Equipment's going to give you an advantage for sure. I mean, like if you test my PC versus an Xbox One, we could be the exact same skill level, but I'm going to beat you every single time. Just because I'm going to be seeing everything that much faster, I'm going to be able to react that much faster. And, and they have ways of balancing that, and some of them are annoying as hell, but if you go to Call of Duty, there's aim assist, and you can tune your aim assist to a degree that is almost godlike. And then you have other things that they're doing to try to help the little Timmies of the world compensate against the hackers or just the people that have worked really hard to get good. They have skill-based hitbox, which instead of I only have this part to hit your head, I can hit this part and hit your head. Because you can't shoot well enough, I'm going to make sure it's that much easier for you to shoot. And so on and so forth. There's a lot of ways that they, quote-unquote, they're trying to balance it, but ultimately they're taking that same, it's just another participation trophy. They're taking that same work ethic that you put into it, that you should feel good for working harder, and they're turning it around and ruining every ounce of work ethic that you may have for a game.
Well, this is 3 minutes to talk with Bill, and I appreciate your time and your effort coming on here and giving us some really good facts that'll help us get our gaming on. And I'm definitely going to talk to you more about that because I can use some aim assist. There's no doubt about that. I'm tired of going in. I go in and get whacked so fast that it's kind of like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to do this. But if anyone has any questions on this subject, you can go to our Facebook group, Intelligent Ramblings Friends, and post a question, and I'll make sure that Juan gets the question. But
absolutely.
that's about the end of our interview. And once again, I appreciate you being here. And if anybody has any questions, ask it on the group, and we will reply to that quickly. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oops.
That's okay. We can work with it. There
How's
we go.
that? Boom. There you go. All right. Finishing remarks. That was a good interview. Okay. And if you catch me on Call of Duty, J. Luke Picard is my gamer name, and I will destroy you in Call of Duty. That's the one game I play a lot.
Picard.
It's spelled wrong though. It's spelled J. Luke Picard, but I spelled it with a P-I-C-A-R-D, and it's P-I-K-R-D. I swapped the C's and the K's so I could get the name. I have a John Luke is one of my favorite characters, and I think he embodies what a leader should embody. And if you want to learn how to lead, watch Star Trek: The Next Generation, because I have it on tape, and I can watch it anytime I want to. It's one of my favorite shows of all time.
Make it so.
Make it so. Well, gentlemen,
like a true manager.
All right.
appreciate you being here, and we will look forward to the trial starting next week. And
All right. I saw where Juan answered your question, John, on the chat.
Oh, cool. Okay.
He talked about what makes a good gamer, and he talked about reaction time, and I can see that. You know, it's reaction time is a key in a lot of sports. How quick can you react to a situation? How quick can you come off the line in drag racing? How quick can you react to that pick that's being set, you know, in basketball? How quick can you see the receiver break open and hit him in a route? Reaction time's got a lot to do with a whole lot of athletics. I can see that really making the thing of gaming.
And in your answer to your question to one, I'll answer it. Are there gifted athletes when it comes to gaming? Absolutely. It's like a race car driver, hand-eye coordination. You're just really good at it. My daughter, Alexandria, is a really good gamer. I mean, really good. Tear me up any day of the week.
You know, she can make a living doing that. She gets really, really good.
I think that would be great. Well, if anybody got...
It's been real, it's been fun, and it's been real fun. Y'all
It
stay
has.
safe tonight. Stay safe tonight. I understand we got some storms moving into northeast Georgia around our area, so y'all take
Well,
care.
hopefully, I don't think it's going to get this far north, so that'll be good. We will catch you guys next week. Thank you for being here, and for those that are watching it later, thank you for being here later and watching the taped episodes of Intelligent Ramblings. Have a good night.
Okay.
Good night,
You as
everybody.
well. Good night, everybody.